Hi everybody, I am Husky Light. I hope you're all really well. Right, interview with Peace, the one that I've been promising to do and get out. I would go and get a cuppa before you watch it. It's quite long. I need to explain there are a couple of parts in it because we ended up splitting this into 5 different parts. Our electrics went, they never go. The last interview I did with Maria, her electrics blew out while we were trying to do the interview. And then last night, as we were trying to do the interview, me and Peace were trying to do the interview, 5 minutes into it, my computer literally just went dink and switched off. So we had to start again. Then her computer went dink and switched off. We had to battle through electrical energies and all sorts of things to get this together. So you will notice there are a couple of parts where because they're all separate, I've done my editing bit and put them together, and it might not quite gel together, but you get the idea. Also, I'm not on camera, it's just Peace, which is actually really good. So you can hear me wittering on in the background, but it's just Peace that you can see. She has got the most amazing story. We are probably going to do I will probably do another interview with her. Her story is amazing and very long as well, but it will help enormously. And she actually helped me enormously as well throughout the interview because she went through the awakening at exactly the same time as me. July 2014 that's when we became aware that we were becoming awakened, and really freaky things started happening to us. But we went through it at exactly the same time, and she actually explains what was going on astrologically at that time for it to cause that. I will end up doing a spin-off video from this. The similarities between what happened to her and what happened to me during my awakening are amazing. They are so similar. In fact, we had a conversation. I think she's a twin flame as well. We're in the same monad group. So I'm slowly meeting all 12 sets of twins from my monad group, which is amazing as well. I've been doing that over the course of while I've been on YouTube. I don't know how many more I've got to go, actually. I'll have to try and work it out. But we're definitely part of the same soul group. So I'll get off, let you watch the video, get a cuppa. It's a long one, but it's fascinating. All the links that you need are below. All the links to her blogs, her videos. There is a paranormal investigator, I think, was brought in at one point to help her, to try and help her. And the link to that blog, that news article actually, is down below as well. Plus everything else, I'll get as much as I can down. The pictures of the scratches and the snake bites, I can't put onto... Actually, I might be able to. If I can't get them onto the video, I'm making this little video before I put all the rest of them together to put up for you. If I can't, what I'll do is I'll get them put up on the forum for you so you can go and have a look up there. But anyway, sit back, enjoy. She has an awful lot to say, which will help you greatly, enormously, understand things a lot better. And as I say, the synchronicities of what she went through and what I went through at exactly the same time in different parts of the world are fantastic, and I think we helped each other greatly as well. So I'm going to end up making if she can do it, I can do it. When I went through the awakening, I've done videos on the chakra openings, on all sorts of things. I've never gone into great detail about how scary it was or some of the parts that I went through, which I've thought about it in the past and just thought, you know what, I can't put that in a video because nobody will believe me, because it was just too surreal, far too surreal. But she's actually come out with some of her experiences, so if she can do it, I can do it. Okay, so that's what's going on. So enjoy. I'll speak to you soon. Bye. Hi everybody, I am Husky Light. Thank you for stopping by. Right, I've got Peace Kanuna Mano with me. She is another amazing woman. Hi, Peace.
Hello.
I've got the dog who has decided to howl at this point as well, but it is a full moon, so that's fine. Right, Peace went through an awakening back in 2014, July of 2014 it started, and she's going to explain the significance of that actually, because she went through the awakening at exactly the same time as I did, and there was some funky stuff going on up in the skies at that time, which I think had a lot to do with it, and she'll explain that. So first of all, thank you for coming along. Hiya.
Hello.
Hi. We're just going ahead with this. We're just recording it. We're not sure we haven't really practiced it that much, but we're just going to go for it. If it goes down, if the electric go, we're just going to carry on with it. So do you want to start off by, first of all, the very first thing we need to talk about is when I put my Freaky Friday video out, what happened?
I actually am having a massive problem with energies and electricity. And obviously with a Mercury Retrograde, I've had to get very creative on my being able to communicate, because I am a Virgo ruled by Mercury. And so when you posted the I want to interview you, I actually didn't have any internet service, and it popped up. And I knew right then that you were speaking to me. I was actually the first person to watch what you had to say, and immediately I was actually the first person to comment on your video.
You were the first person to get in contact as well by email.
Yeah, I am able to do that somehow, contact people on no internet service, which is awesome.
That's very clever.
Yeah.
That's extremely clever.
Thank you, Mercury.
How the universe works, though. So, going back, let's just start right at the beginning. Let's start in July 2014. What started to happen?
Actually, for me, it started to happen a little bit before that, because as we all know, with the planetary alignments and stuff like that, you can actually start feeling the effects of it beginning a few weeks ahead of time.
Yeah.
And so,
like that for me, but I think I wasn't aware of what was going on. It took me a long time to be aware of what was going on and what was happening.
Neither was I up until just like within the last few months. It was still also very surreal for me, and it was petrifying. Of course, spirituality is something that people do not discuss, and especially being possessed by dark entities, which I had a very, very, very rough time with. Even when I was told that that was what was happening to me, I still was not a believer.
Doesn't make it any better.
No. And so what happened was, you know, starting in July, like I said, a couple of weeks beforehand, I'd gotten fired from my job. And, you know, I have my daughters living with me, single mom. And that's where my bad luck began.
The tower falling.
The tower fell. And so I lost my job unexpectedly. You know, I didn't know where to go from there. Soon after, things just started gradually getting worse and worse and worse. You know, my landlord started in on me, and I can't blame them for wanting their rent paid, but how do you pull blood out of a turnip? And so, you know, as it went by, I ended up losing my home. I ended up in a relationship, a wonderful relationship with a beautiful man. You know, family thing, you know, I haven't dated in a long time, and found my twin flame soulmate. And he was there, and then he was gone. And next thing you know, I ended up with some snake bites on the back of my neck in February, the beginning of February. And I couldn't understand what that was. I just thought that they were, you know, these pimples. I don't know how to explain it, but he actually had them as well. He had the two in the middle of his neck, up and down, and mine were on both sides of my hairline, and we took pictures of them. I a few years before that, was introduced to a psychic lady here in town, and I was willing to try whatever it is that I could because I had massive stomach problems. And I'd gone in for major testings and, you know, colonoscopies, upper endoscopies, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And I was deathly allergic to, are you there? Okay. So as far as the snake bites go, apologize for the video cutting out.
My PC just went kaput as soon as she said snake bites. It just closed out.
Yeah, I still have some residual energies that like to screw with me on that.
Yeah, I'm going to be cutting cords after this.
Right. So when the snake bites occurred, I, as myself, thought they were just pimples. And when I noticed that my significant other also had them in the back of his neck, in the middle, whereas mine were on both sides, I had been referred to a friend or a lady before who I do consider a friend. Her name, she's a psychic lady here in Chico. And I went to her, and as I was scared, I started seeing things that just weren't real. I was seeing people, I was moving over for people out of the street. And so when I went to her and I showed her what was happening and what I was seeing and what I had, and I told her about this entity that as a child I had been very fearful of, which was a snake, that used to come to me every night. And I was always taught that I, you know, was a traumatized child, that what I was seeing was not real, and what I was feeling wasn't real. And after speaking with her when I went in, she explained to me that, you know, I invited this entity in, being a traumatized child, being adopted. I was lonely. It's something that I just picked up because my threshold had been lowered, my energies and stuff. So I was able to absorb those energies, whether positive or negative. And that being my fear, although inviting it in because I was lonely, because I was depressed. So when I ended up with these snake bites, I was afraid. I didn't know what to think. They weren't going away. And she explained to me, you know, you need to raise your vibration, peace. You are very depressed right now. And due to your depression, your energy level and your threshold around you has been lowered. And I'm thinking, how can that be possible, you know, to let these dark entities in? From there, it only got stranger and only got worse. Somehow, some way, things just started appearing. You know, I just got more and more depressed. But I started downloading data like no other, and things began coming to me that I never researched. I'm not one to get on the computer. I'm not one to research things. I'm not one to, you know, dig into that kind of stuff. I'm more of an out of sight, out of mind. I was never spiritual. I was never religious. The way I looked at it is don't talk to me about it. Out of sight, out of mind. So with this awakening and what I'm going through right now, I had my entire world torn apart. I've lost, since then, my girls are now still gone. My daughters. They believe I'm crazy, which, you know, at this point, and I hate to sound mean or insensitive, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I've lost all my friends that I considered family. And I'll be honest with you, due to all of this, I almost lost my life as well. Many times I was very, very suicidal. I felt as though I was not wanted by anyone. Everyone was pushing me out. Everyone kept telling me I'm crazy. I went to a counselor, and that was a massive fail, you know. And at the end of our hour session, she just kind of looked at me and was, Pulling things out of a hat. You know, I want you to write down all the things you like about yourself. I'm not here because I don't like me. I'm here because I need advice. Next thing you know, I'm being told that, you know, there's a possibility that I have breast cancer now. That was scary.
And obviously you don't have breast cancer.
No.
No. When I went through the awakening, you're actually explaining a lot of things that I went through, but I didn't name it as possession. I just named it Night of the Dark Soul or whatever because I was clearing stuff out. But it was funny you saying about the breast cancer, because when I was in that position as well, I thought I had a brain tumour and I was going to die. I went through that part of it as well. I managed to, I really thought I was going to go.
It's funny you say that, not funny, haha, but the other night I actually had a massive nightmare that I had a brain tumor and I was chasing my daughters trying to tell them goodbye.
Yeah.
And when I got there to say goodbye to them, to let them know, like, this is it, they kept telling me, you're a liar, there's nothing wrong with you. And I'm telling them, like, I'm trying to get to you guys, like, I have to say goodbye to you guys, like, this is it.
This was exactly the same last year.
Yeah, I woke up crying, and this was just 2 nights ago. I jumped up and I'm like, oh my God, you know, and I couldn't even in my dream get them to believe this. And I can understand where everybody is coming from, thinking that I'm crazy and that it's not a very nice vest to have to wear, especially when everybody who's ever known me has known me to be honest, who's known me to be brutally honest. I'm going to tell you how it is in the most sensitive way that I can, and whether or not it sounds insensitive, those are not my intentions. I've always been a bartender, and people couldn't wait to come and see me and hear what I had to say. And with this awakening, I have more of an understanding as to why I was pushed out of the bartending industry. And basically what it boils down to is I have a voice and I have things to say. And when people want to come and talk to me, I'm kind of defeating the purpose of counseling these individuals by serving them something that is going to alter their mind in the long run.
Yes.
And, you know, I didn't realize that to begin with because I've always wanted to be the bartender and the entertainer, and having all these people come to me and want to hear what I have to say. And, you know, you run into them at the grocery store and they've got you penciled in and can't wait to see you, but yet you don't even know who they are. But I made a difference, you know?
Yeah.
And
well,
so
at the same time, you were actually poisoning them with the alcohol.
Yes. Yes.
Which is, again, when I lost my cake business, and looking back on it, I got pushed out of that. But I was feeding people cake, sugar, which blocks up your pineal gland, which again is poison.
Yes.
I was not serving these people. Yeah, I was making nice cakes for the wedding and that, but I was actually poisoning them.
Yep.
By doing that, just as you were. So again, during the awakening, you get pushed out of what's not serving you.
Well, and being in toxic situations as well, you know, being yelled at on the consistent by my bosses. You know, I look back at the patterns and stuff of all the jobs that I've ever had, and I never got fired for not doing my job.
Yeah.
I got fired out of jealousy. I got fired out of, you know, the control. And for me, I'm looking at them like, I've got 3 daughters, you know, my oldest is going to be 21, and I'm thinking, I'm a mom, and I will never give you a reason to abuse me, yell at me. I don't steal from you. I don't lie to you. I don't call in sick every day. I don't, I'm here to please. I'm paying your bills. You're not paying mine, technically. I mean, I really do need another job, but my customers is what made it worthwhile to me, and they made sure that I was taken care of. Yeah. And, you know, no matter what toxic situation I was in my
personal life,
employment life as well, you know, but then when I'm coming home and I'm crying and I've got anxiety and not knowing about the astrological, you know, alignments and this awakening thing that you can go through, now that I look back on all of it, it was all toxic. You know, I was working in this, and so it's going to put all of these obstacles in your way. And it's like, you know, the universe is telling you, listen, we're going to do this to you on purpose to get you out of this, because this is not who you are. Who you are is a creative individual. You've got a lot to say, and people do hear you. Before you walk into a room, your presence is already there, and people already know. You know, my hair was my signature piece, you know, haha, piece. My hair was my signature piece. When I walked into a room, people noticed me. I chopped it all off. I come to realize that it's all negative energies.
Just let me stop you there. Did you chop it all off?
Yes.
Really sure?
It was down to my butt, and this is as long as it is now.
Have you seen any of my earlier videos?
Yes. Yes.
I did the same thing. I chopped all my hair off.
Negative energy.
And it was down here.
And it's past energies that we hold on to, and we don't realize it.
Get the colour right as well. That was the other thing. I went through a myriad of colouring my hair, different colours every week.
I did. I did the exact same thing.
Right. It didn't look right. It was
Yep. Nothing looked right because nothing felt right, and we are a reflection of how we feel. So when we feel like crap, we're going to look like crap. When we don't understand what we're going through, or you know, so we're constantly trying to change our self. Are you there?
And it was my tarot card readings, but they literally shoved me back into it on here.
It's recording.
No. Okay.
All right. As far as the job goes, me getting fired from every position that I've ever had, looking back now, I realized that it was the universe's way, or God, however you so choose to call it, is telling you, you know, hey, look, you know, we're going to constantly put you in these abusive situations. We're going to constantly, you know, do these things because you want to evolve, but yet you're allowing these things, and, you know, whether it be a job or a person or toxic situations, to bring you down, you know, to bring your energy down, and we want you to evolve. So how can you evolve in these toxic situations? And so it has to come in, and it has to, you know, crumble our tower in order for us to go, holy crap, okay, that wasn't working for us. We as humans do not see that as an actual blessing in disguise, you know. At that point, you know, after all of this, just randomly emails started coming to me. And when these emails were coming to me, I couldn't understand, because I'm not one to research the internet. And this article came up. It was about Yodish astrology, or Vedic. And I'd never heard of that before. And I ended up clicking on the link. Something told me to click it. And
that's exactly what happened to me as well.
When I clicked this link, it came up about these two planets. And if you look up Rahu and Ketu, what they do is, one is a head, no body, or a head, no body, and a body, no head. So a mind with no body and a body with no mind. And that's what Rahu and Ketu are in astrology. You know, they're two planets that used to be a serpent. And if you look up Rahu and Ketu, it'll tell you the story of these gods. And it got in line behind, I believe, the eclipse, and was able to shapeshift from a serpent into a god. And they were in line for this sweet nectar of eternal life. And by the time the gods had realized that the serpent had transformed into a god, this serpent had already gotten part of, or a drop of, the nectar. And at that point, they chopped off its head. And that's how we end up with the head, or the mind, no body, the body, no mind. Well, what happens with these two planets is they go into two signs, shadow signs of each other. And I am a Virgo, and my shadow sign being the Pisces. Well, Rahu and Ketu, being in Virgo and Pisces, began in July of 2014. For me, I started feeling the effects of it before. And what happens is, with Rahu and Ketu being in your sign, it's an 18-month process. And what happens is, if you are not in a position to where you are stable and you're on rocky foundation, it comes in and it crumbles your tower. So it takes everything away from you, strips you of all your thoughts. It strips you of your foundation. I mean, your material belongings. It strips you of your job. It strips you of what no longer serves your purpose. And unfortunately, sometimes that does include individuals. Unfortunately, it included my children. And to me, the way I look at it is them being in my soul group, that I have taught them so well that I need to have trust in my parenting skills to understand that I did a great job as a parent. And now they're out there and they're teaching others about, what, and they want to be angry with me because to them, they look at it like I failed. It's not my fault I got fired by this job. But then again, it is a karma I created. Yeah. And when I say it's a karma that I created, we all have karma, whether it be good karma or bad karma. We still have karma. And so when good things happen to us, we don't look at that as a karma. We look at it as, oh, we worked hard for that. Well, yeah, you're right. And that's karma. It's the law of attraction. You did good. You were on the up and up. Yeah, you were honest and, you did everything with the best of intentions. And, most people, they want to pick on those who are kind and loving. And it's because of a jealousy and a hatred within themselves. Now, for my girls, it saddens me. And as the human being that I am, I do have those emotions. And it does hurt. And I feel abandoned, and I had these abandonment issues. And go back to, when I started seeing these entities, I had written this piece about abandonment and what I had been through since I was a newborn baby. And what I went through with this fear of people being gone. And so I tried to hold on to people, and no matter how mean they were to me, no matter how cruel, I hated the fact that somebody just didn't like me. And so I would allow this abuse and this meanness from people because I didn't know a positive relationship, because I'd been so used to being thrown to the side and still trying to be this loving baby little girl, this precious individual who has been stained.
Trying to do everything for everybody.
Yeah. And
no
going,
how bad you felt or no matter how bad they made you feel, you'd still do things for them.
But never looking for, the only thing I ever wanted was just to be accepted, to be loved, and so I'd never had a positive relationship in my life. So when I wrote this article about this abandonment, that's when my significant other had just disappeared. Again, abandonment. And I didn't know what to do with myself. And so this day I happened to write this thing, and then I was like, I got to get this out of my phone. Like, I don't want to continue looking at it. And so what I did was I emailed it to myself. And all of a sudden, the psychic lady, that I had went and seen 3 years before, whom I hadn't heard from, her email came through. And it said, "Dear Peace, you may want to sit down for this, but you chose them. Who, you might ask? Your parents." And it was within 1 minute of me emailing myself this abandonment issue. And mind you, I hadn't heard from her in 3 years. And right before this is when when I moved over for this person in the road, and my girlfriend at the time says, "Peace, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "This guy's going to get hit by a car." And she's like, "There's no one there." So when I got to her apartment, I made her come out and read this article first, because it came through and within 1 minute, and I just saw this. And then she came out and she looks at me and she says, "Peace, you need to read this, but I don't want to be sitting here when you do, because this," and she was like, "Come in to my apartment when you're done reading this." And by the time I was done reading it, I was hysterical. I emailed immediately, this psychic friend of mine and said, I need to talk to you now. And so the very next day she emailed me back and said, I'm ready, to talk whenever you are. My day is available for you, Peace. And so I called her and I was like, what is happening to me? And she was like, Peace, your threshold is down. You're able to see these other realms because of the fact that your threshold is down.
Yeah.
And at the time that you were able to see this entity, it was because you, at that certain time is when they are crossing over. And I was like, no way, this is just not real. My daughters had seen, this, my youngest is sensitive, and she would come to me and tell me, Mom, I see this guy who's sitting at the foot of my bed and he scares me. And I'm like, well, what is he doing? And I never played into it. I was like, okay, whatever, until this little girl came to me in this house that I was living in, and she would hide in my room. And when I would leave, she would, pull the doorknob, and my girls would get scared. And, so they would go to the neighbor's house. And when I got home, she came over with the girls and they were standing in my bedroom door, and she says, Peace, the girls were petrified, that your doorknob started shaking and just things started happening in front of them. So they came over and I'm like, okay, that's all right. And then all of a sudden, because I was being passive aggressive.
Can I just say, I need to say this. You just said, was it your daughter's doorknob that was shaking?
My bedroom doorknob.
Your bedroom. My daughter's doorknob was shaking the other week, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was shaking.
In the video.
Oh, really?
I did a video on it about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Because I had knocking on my window. And
Yeah.
I had my daughter's bedroom door knob was shaking.
Yeah.
Like somebody was trying to rattle it.
Well, my
And
youngest...
I was sitting there thinking, what on earth is that? What is happening? Now, somebody suggested to me it was fairies. But...
Well, this little girl wasn't any more than 4 or 5. I finally ended up having the most real dream about her. And this is what got me to start believing, because my youngest daughter's freaking out. And my middle daughter as well. And my oldest daughter has told me many of things that I was just like, oh, okay, like my children need help, is what I'm thinking. And it was because everything that I felt when I was a child was passed off as a mental disability and your traumatized child. And so anyway, my daughters, they were standing there in the bedroom door with, my landlord, and she's telling me this stuff, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And all of a sudden we hear this crash. And my girls just, do, and they ran over the top screaming, Mommy, and my landlord, her head turned around like poltergeist, like her body didn't even move. And I jumped up, ran out there to see what this crash was all about, and I couldn't find it. And the next morning I got up and I went to make coffee, and I'd had these canisters since I was young. There was 3 of them, and they were tiered, so the tall, medium, short. And the smallest one was shattered inside. And there was nothing sitting on it. There's nothing in the canister. And it's underneath my cabinet, so nothing fell, And I'm like, okay, I get it. So, my girls, I finally started believing. And next thing you know, I start painting my house. And I'm in my bedroom, where the little girl always seemed to be, was in my closet. And I'm standing up on a ladder and I'm painting, and I feel this small hand on my shoulder as a thank you. And my whole body just went, I felt tingles down my body, and it was calming, but yet very, very startling. And so I'm, looking around, and I continued painting. Well, after this, I started having these dreams, and this dream about this little girl, and she never said a word, and she handed me a white box with a red bow. And when I shook it, I just looked at her and I was like, daffodils? And she just shook her head. You want me to plant you daffodils? And I'd never planted a garden. And she just shook her head. And she ended up saving my life in my dream. And it was so real. And so I planted these daffodils. And I put the daffodils in a red vase outside on my porch. Or I put them in the blue vase, excuse me. And I put lilies in the red vase. When they came up, they were flip-flopped. And I thought, okay, something's playing tricks on me. You know, I did not do this. But that would be the little girl thing to do, is trick, you know, little tricks and little games and stuff. And at that point, I went in, I cleansed the house for the girls and myself, and I said, I don't mind sharing my home.
Sorry, my son has just walked in. He's right. If you're going to go past really fast, could you let the dogs out for me, please? Good. Okay. Right in the middle of an interview. Okay. No, he's just walked out again.
I've got a curry, so if the dog goes.
Can we press pause? Is there a pause button?
Yes.
Sorry.
So after the canister was broken and I couldn't figure out what it was, and of course I still didn't want to believe in this child, but after feeling her presence there when I was painting the bedroom, it was such a beautiful blessing. And still it was very surreal for me, so I tried to play the out of sight, out of mind. Going back to Rahu and Ketu being, again, the mind, no body, the body, no mind. What ends up happening when it is in your sign, and at this time, it is now into Leo and Aquarius. It just left Pisces and Virgo on January 30th. So that we're still feeling the residual effects and basically being that phoenix rising from the ashes and having to sift through our lives. Him being a Pisces and myself being the Virgo. So him and I were, you know, that was a soulmate connection.
Can I just say, it's now about to go into Leo?
No, it is in Leo. It's in Leo and Aquarius. It moved over in January. Or, I'm sorry, I apologize, February 1st. So January 30th to, what is it, the 31st, depending on where you're at in the world.
So they've got 18 months.
Now they have 18 months. So what ends up happening with Rahu and Ketu is, as I said before, if you are on rocky foundation and things just, you know, you don't have the career, you don't have, you know, the perfect family life and, you know, whatever is perfect. What it does is it comes in and it shreds you of all the things that you thought you believed in, all your foundation, your structure, everything you've ever learned. It makes you question. It brings up past pains, past hurts, because those things that are buried within you, like my abandonment issues and things like that, they were constantly resurfacing, and that was what was holding me back from ever moving forward and being able to have this firm foundation and structure, because I wasn't used to it. So what it ended up happening is when Rahu and Ketu hit Virgo and Pisces in July of 2014, my partner, him and I now, like, we're barely coming out of it. He had abandoned me throughout all of this. My children abandoned me. But he was going through all of his stuff, and he was hurting just as much as I was. And I'm having all these things shred away from me. And us being a shadow sign, our challenges are, I'm an earth sign, I'm a Virgo. Yeah. And so what ends up happening is, being a Virgo, you are a grounded sign. You know, you're a mutable sign. And then your shadow sign being the Pisces, not him in general, but actually being a Pisces, and it being water, you're having to step over and try and get your foot planted in this water that is constantly moving. And so Rahu and Ketu came in, shattered my world. They took away my family. It took away all these structures and foundations that just, they weren't real. They were all false. And, you know, I didn't own my own home. I'm, working for $8 an hour and not getting paid. I'm being abused. I'm used to abusive relationships, from birth. I'm used to abandonment. I'm used to, all these things. At least you can say you're used to them, but you're never used to them. And the pain, the residual effect of the pain is what was holding me back. Fear.
Just used to living that way.
Yeah, fear of moving on, moving away, fear of freedom. And that's all these fears, I'm going through all these, lawsuits, and then, my daughter running away, then, here comes CPS and they're not doing their job like the judge told them to do. And, I've proven my case time and time again, and I'm not the one under investigation. And, I'm telling them, and I've got stacks of evidence a mile high that I've been carrying around all these years to save my own butt. And so that I can show that I've always been on the up and up. And everybody's always known me to be honest. So all of a sudden now I am my shadow self. I am this dark, mysterious human being,
Nobody believes that everyone thinks is lying.
Everyone says I'm lying, and I'm still coming out of the residual effect of that. But I ended up deleting everyone. I ended up getting rid of my Facebook until I finally came back. And when I came back full bore. And I started the Footsteps to Peace blog. And the first thing I posted was about what I've been going through. And, I will admit, I reached out to a lot of people trying to get their help for my significant other. And, everybody kept telling me that how he was just his MO. But to me, that wasn't good enough. Okay, if you're his friends and you call each other family, why give me that sorry excuse by saying it's his MO? Instead of saying, you know what? Why can't I help you, bro? Or buddy? Or, friend? Instead, everybody excused the behavior as it's his MO. And what I've since taught him is, he didn't want to believe it's the astrological alignment. And he didn't want, and I didn't believe any of that stuff until all these things, synchronicity, serendipitous moments, things like that started just coming to me. And it wasn't until I started going through my paranormal experience. And after the paranormal experience and still believing, like every morning waking up thinking, did yesterday really just happen? And when I have witnesses who are watching these scratches down my back and, and it would happen in front of them, and it felt like acid being poured down my back. And so I started looking on the internet, scratches of 3, I just put in scratches. And scratches of 3 kept popping up, and it kept saying,
scratches of 3.
Yeah, paranormal experience or disrespect to the Trinity. And I'm like, what the heck is the Trinity? And paranormal experience, okay, and I'm like, whatever, so I start looking up invisible bugs, tiny bugs. Is there a possibility? And, I started researching that, and it came up that there was these bugs called thrips. And so if you get an infestation in your house, you need to call a bug guy. And so next thing you know...
So you had an infestation. That came up as
I thought that I had an infestation. And, because I've got all these scratches and I'm like cut up, and they're all on my back though. That was the weird part. It wasn't on my arms. It wasn't on my face. It wasn't on my, it was only from the snake bites on here, and then my shoulders down, and to this day I'm massively scarred, and it's something that I will never forget. And when I want to, I can turn around and those scratches are there, and they are a part of me. And so, I called a girlfriend of mine, back in February when I went to the psychic lady, she had given me this phone number to this lady who was a shaman. And so I'm calling this shaman over and over again, and she's not answering. She's not returning my calls. And next thing you know, I'm being told I've got breast cancer, and, you know, my daughters are running away, and my significant other's now got, you know, a mistress again, and she won't go away, and, you know, and I was nice to her, and I, you know, so don't get me wrong, I was very kind and understanding, and that's, I guess, what Virgos do is they understand, and, you know, so it was so much that I was dealing with, and, you know, I was afraid. I was afraid, and to think that, you know, these shamans are not answering me, and so finally I got a hold of this psychic lady again, and I says, you know, and I'm crying, I'm hysterical, and I'm like, please help me. I've gone to counseling. Everybody's running away. You know, now my significant other is gone. You know, the love of my life. You know, and I'm talking about my children, and then, you know, him as well. And I'm like, now they think I have breast cancer. There's 2 lumps. Like, what is happening to me? And why won't anyone help me? And I said, you know, this shaman won't answer the phone. And before I could say anything else, she says, peace. Your power is much too strong, and we don't know what to do with it. And that's why she's not answering the phone. And I'm like, but please, there's got to be someone else. Do you have a second opinion? And she was like, no. And I go, nobody? And she says, well, I can say that you can go to the one who taught her. And I said, okay, how can I find her? She didn't give me a name. She didn't give me a place. This is what she told me. And I quote, if you can find her in the woods somewhere, you're lucky. And when that goes over to in a synchronicity moment and serendipitous moment, after that, this was May 18th, I want to say, if I believe right. I'd have to look back. Don't quote me on that. But the May 29th, we went camping in a town that had no service, no cell phone service, no nothing. And I'd never been to this town before. And, you know, a woman who I consider a mom, you know, and I call her mom, so that's how I refer to her. She told me, peace, you know, you got to go. So I left 3.5 hours ahead of everyone. So I got there I was there for 3.5 hours before anybody found me. And I didn't know where I was headed, and I had no GPS, no service, no nothing. So I just decided to find myself a little nook and cranny, and something called me to this spot. And so I backed into the spot so people wouldn't try and stop and talk to me or see if I needed help. You know, I just wanted to be away from everyone. So I sat back in this little niche, and I got out of the car, and what I had seen, and now looking back while we were there, what was in that spot that I had been called to was not something that was anywhere else where we were at, like the scene. It looked like a cross between a Thomas Kincaid painting and a Lord of the Rings movie. Like, it was that mysterious. You know what I mean? And so I stood there, and I love to write. And I'm standing there, and I have my phone out. I'm standing against my car. My car keys are in the ignition. I'm, you know, paying attention. And all of a sudden, I guess I had written, which I still have, in my phone, marked May 29th. And it says, who shall I thank for this curse? There's no period. There's no ending. And I'm not a one-liner kind of a person. If I'm going to write, I've showed you my blog, I'm a writer. I mean, it's gonna have a top and a bottom, you know, and still to this day, it doesn't even have a period. And after that, they happened to drive by, and I didn't see them. And Mom looks over and says, "That's peace." And, you know, her husband, Pops, he says, "No, there was nobody standing there." And she goes, "I swear that's peace." And from where I was standing, you would have had to known that I was there to know that I was there. And looking back, I finally figured out that she was going through her awakening as well. And whether or not she's old enough to be my mom or not, the fact of the matter is all gurus come from all shapes, sizes, and ages. And so when she saw me there, they came back, they pulled over, and I didn't recognize them. And I'm standing against my car, and she says, "Hey, Peace," and I'm looking at her, and she goes, "Man, I'm surprised I even saw you here." And later on, she tells me, "Peace, the way that you were standing there was almost as if you had been painted in to this setting. I have never in my life seen something so mystical." So anyway, I guess I looked at him and I says, "You guys need to see this." And I just turned my head back, and they, got out of the truck, turned it off, and they came around and they stood there and they looked out with me. And Mom looks at me and says, "Peace, something tells me we need to go." And I'm like, "Okay." So they start walking back towards their truck. And as I turned around to open my car door, I have a newer car. And I've never had this problem. And still to this day, I've never had this issue where the trunk popped. And I look back at the trunk and I walk back to go shut it. And as I turned to look, their truck took off and was headed towards the road. Mom at that point had jumped out of her sandals and is running like a bat out of hell to jump into this truck that has the dogs in the cab, and she jumped in barely in the nick of time before that truck hit the street where there was another car coming.
Just amazing.
And, I didn't know, it didn't even dawn on me. The only thing I could think at that time was those shoes weren't there. I didn't notice what was actually happening. And so when she rode with me back, to the camp spot, she was shaken up. I'm shaken up. I'm crying. I'm like, I don't know what's happening to me. And I don't like it. And she was, still to this day when her and I speak of it, she's like, until I got the clarity of what was really happening, she says, "Peace, I have to be honest with you. I don't believe that we were supposed to be there. You were invited, but we were not." And I was given a message and I didn't know where it came from, but I said to her, I says, "Mom, no, you were able to see that and find me where I was because you're one of the only people that can see me for who I am right now." And everybody that, everybody that I thought had known me and that had my best interest at heart and had loved me and who was never going to leave me and love me as unconditionally as I loved them were not able. And I had really just began my bond with her, and she was able to see me for who I was. And next thing you know, I'm teaching her all these things. And, this esoteric knowledge that I have been given. And I look back now and I'm so thankful for what I've been given and what I've seen, although very, very traumatizing, when I started getting the scratches down my back. I didn't know anything about this. The bug guy comes out and I'm showing him my back and he's like, "Lady, those aren't bug bites," and I've never seen anything like that before in my life. Well, right before that, I'm laying in bed getting attacked by these bugs, and like I'm waiting on the bug guy to show up in a couple of hours. I'm absolutely exhausted. And right when I had gotten to sleep, the pipes burst in my backyard. It's like 4:30 in the morning. Scared the ever-loving heck out of me, and I ran outside and I even recorded it because I knew that my, partner, wasn't going to believe me. And so I actually, because I'm the one who always has to have evidence of everything I say because I'm the only one that's telling the truth and everybody else is lying. But if you don't have if you do have the evidence, you're a liar. And if you don't have the evidence, you're telling the truth. What's good is bad. What's bad is good. So anyway, I recorded it and had, I was going to wait to send it to him. And all of a sudden my phone died. And next thing you know, he texts me when I turned my phone back on at 5 a.m. And I'm like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "You're never going to believe me, but this just happened." And the pipe is still running, and I'm crying and I've got these bugs in the house and I've got the bug guy coming. I'm absolutely exhausted. And, you know, at this point, I'm being accused of being on drugs. I'm being accused of being a liar. I'm being accused of being crazy. And I don't blame everybody for thinking those things about me, because what I'm saying right now, unless I had lived it, and it took me a long time of questioning it and all this research that I never even researched just coming to me, and it was all the answers. And so I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. And I think that's the problem, is I always cared what, well, I'm not going to say I think. It was the problem. I always cared about what everyone thought about me. And I guess it was a deep-seated issue, because if I didn't care what people thought about me when they were abusing me, I would have drew the line in the sand. I would have walked away from what no longer served my purpose. And if you're going to be cruel and mean to me, why should I put up with those kinds of things? And that's the thing that I've learned through this Yodish and this Vedic astrology and Rahu and Ketu and what they do to our lives. You know, if I was a politician, it would actually be the other way around. I would actually be benefiting from Rahu and Ketu. I would actually be more abundant, you know, materialize, you know, I would have more material possessions. But instead, my entire life was ripped out. I lost my home. I lost my job. I lost my kids. I didn't lose my kids, you know, I just stopped going to court because all of a sudden I realized, let go of the reins, peace.
Yeah.
Let go, because you keep going in and you keep fighting and you have all the evidence, but this is going to continue go until you put the stop to it. You draw the line in the sand. You don't allow for these things to happen to you anymore. And until you learn these lessons, we're going to keep throwing crap at you non-stop. We're going to continue getting you pounded because you say you want change, but you're not willing to change. You're not willing to let go. Yeah. And you know what? All of a sudden, I just decided, you know, CPS isn't listening to what I'm saying, even though I'm not under investigation. And I'm showing him this massive stacks of evidence, and he's not hearing me. And so I'm like, it was the hardest decision I ever had to make by not going to court. I just, of all these years that my ex-husband had drawn me into court and for no reason, you know, battled me of this, and I've proven my innocence every step of the way. Yeah. And all of a sudden,
that's it.
I had to go, you know what? I have nothing to prove anymore. I have fought for these children. I have fought for my jobs. I have fought for these relationships. I have fought, and I'm being abused. Yeah, I'm being abused every step of the way. And what am I fighting for? Yeah. I'm fighting myself. I'm fighting because I find that I'm supposed to fight for everything in my life. No. You don't have to fight. And so while I'm doing that, my threshold is getting lowered and lowered and lowered and lowered. And what ended up happening, I was able to be attacked by dark entities. I was able to see things that I never, ever could have believed were real. And and this was all a prison of my own making that I had done to myself. This was my karma. And everybody not believing in me was because I've always carried the evidence. And even though I still have the evidence, that's what Rahu and Ketu were here to do. We were all affected by Rahu and Ketu in different ways, and it does depend on where it's at in your natal chart. You know, because we're not just a Virgo. We have a moon and a rising sign. That is our unique makeup. And people don't understand that. And they don't get the fact that numerology and your name is a roadmap to your destiny, where you've been, where you're no longer to return. You know, it's just like the North Node and the South Node in astrology. And I'm not an astrologer, but I did download a lot of that information into my mind, because during this awakening, I started downloading everything like a computer, faster than a computer, and being able to keep all the knowledge. And it all made perfect sense. And again, it's that fool's journey.
It's crazy. I went through a lot of the downloads as well. And suddenly I went for, I could understand gematria. I could understand quantum physics. I could understand things that, you know, I've never looked at before or anything, but I was reading them and I was almost scanning through them and reading through them so fast. But the information, I was just soaking it up like a sponge.
Yeah, but I'm not a reader.
Exactly what it was.
I'm not even a reader.
No, exactly.
I'm like, if they can make a movie out of it, let's do that. You know what I mean? And well, and it's funny, because I became a recluse during all of this as well. And well, which is funny, it's the hermit, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the hermit's a number 9.
Yeah.
The 9 card, and I'm a September, I'm the 9th month. And I am a Virgo, and hermit is the Virgo. And so, which is, going within to find the answers, because obviously me going to CPS and me going to the counselor and me going to, my psychic friend and me reaching out to these shamans and I showed you the emails as well of being turned away by this shaman, and she never gave me the name of this shaman. This shaman, when I finally did find her in the woods somewhere, and I did, was from this ghost app, and I'm not going to mention which one it was, because if you are not grounded and you are not balanced, don't do it. You're opening up Pandora's box, okay? Because it's not something that I invited in this paranormal experience by downloading that app. And so when I contacted her a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to thank her, she was able to open my eyes up to things that a counselor couldn't do, all these people who I was going to for help, failed, where, these few people that have only known me for, months, were able to see me for who I was, when all these other people who I thought knew me, and so I reached out to her a couple weeks ago, and I said, I need to check in with you, because I hadn't checked in with her since my breast cancer scare back in May. And, and I said, I want to thank you, because if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be alive today, because you didn't give up on me. And because of the knowledge, and I said, I did find your shaman, the secondary choice that you gave me. And she was like, really? And I, said, and I still haven't forwarded her the emails like I have you, where she was like, I'm really sorry, Peace, but because of how you got my name and because of this entity, I can't help you, and I'm so sorry. And I said, do you understand what this is doing to me? I'm dying. Like, I'm literally dying right now. I got down, from 150 pounds. I got down to 109 pounds. My body was eating itself. The day of my exorcism, because a friend of mine who, watched me go through all of this and all the pain and all the shredding and all the, just everything, she says to me, hey, Peace, you've reached out to psychics and you've reached out to shamans and you've reached out to counselors. Why don't you start going down the voodoo track? And I'm like, are you serious? And I had 2 friends actually tell me that. One of them is no longer.
What's funny, because I went through the same thing, and nobody would speak to me, and I was being thrown out of websites. I couldn't get the information I needed. I couldn't call anybody. I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And the voodoo doll, I actually had that as well, but right at the beginning, and it didn't dawn on me for a long time.
I never had a voodoo doll. I called a voodoo doctor.
I had a voodoo doll that somebody had given him, and I found it. I was like, what on earth's this? And it just didn't dawn on me at the time. But again, it was another message. But yeah. Right.
Well, for me, I'm, and it's basically, witch doctor or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. So I just happened to put it into a search engine, and this site comes up, and come to find out, he's only an hour and a half away. And so I called him and I emailed him all my information after speaking with him. And I'm like, please help me. And he was like, I'm sorry, Peace, I can't make it there. Get this, until September 12th. Well, my birthday's the 13th. And this is August, mind you. And I'm like, I'm not going to make it by then. Come to find out that the entity kept saying this name over and over again. The name of the shaman, and then the name of this doctor.
Yeah.
Or, people are so worried and scared of the word exorcism. Exorcism is a baptism. Not only did I have a Catholic, he's Catholic. His wife is a very spiritual woman who's been through massive abuse and had paranormal experiences as well. And then they brought over a Christian lady who was absolutely amazing. And she's the one who turned me on to the angels and the archangels and things like that. So I had one of each here. And, when they came in, and when you read the article and watch the YouTube videos about the exorcism, aka baptism, you know, you'll see my pictures. And the very next day I took a picture of myself. That day I had black circles under my eyes. I'm pale. I don't even look human. You can actually see in the YouTube video from the before and afters where they did get the entity to speak. The first 4 words that the entity does say, from what I'm understanding, is I am right here.
Yeah.
The second thing that the entity says is I am. Okay. And I am.
Mm-hmm.
I am is a law of attraction.
There's the I am affirmation. It's the Christ consciousness.
Exactly. And so, you know,
So we're not talking a possession in... It's the Christ consciousness coming into you. It's the 1111 coming into you. But the way it has to show itself to get you to get over, to strip down those layers, to have that tower fall, it has to do that.
Exactly. And, you know, even still, I mean, as soon as he did a full submersion baptism in the bathtub, and I came out of it. And when you read the article, you know, he's like, he works for the Department of Fish and Game, and he had my back analyzed, and they specifically state there's no way I could have given these scratches to myself. Now, is there a possibility that somebody else could have? I'm not in a physically abusive relationship, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, but in the article they write, it is highly unlikely.
Yeah.
You know.
And just to let everybody know, all of that information, or a lot of it, is below.
Yes, so...
And links and that for everyone to look at.
You know, when that first got posted, I was highly afraid because, again, I was afraid what people were going to think. And then when I got that email from you saying, I want to interview you, Freaky Friday, I was like...
With no internet.
Yeah, with no internet, I'm like, well, I got the perfect interview. You know what I mean? And it's something that does need to be out, and it is a part of spirituality that people don't like to talk about. You know, people talk about, you know, Jesus rising from the grave. You don't look at that as a paranormal experience? You know what I mean? Like, that is too a paranormal experience, and it depends on what you believe in. And here's somebody who didn't believe in religion anymore. I did when I was a child, but I had been failed by my church. Yeah. And, you know, I'd just been failed constantly. And so my biggest thing was, right, you know, saying to myself, you know, if there's a God or, you know, whatever, why am I going through all this pain from the time I was born? You know, why are these children being abused? Why are, you know, innocent people being murdered? And, well, it's all a life lesson is what I've learned. It's all a life lesson. And, you know, I'm not fearful of abandonment anymore. And Rahu Ketu being, you know, now out of my you know, Virgo and Pisces, you know, we're dealing with the residual effects of it all. But I'm able to look back and go, holy crap, how did I come out the other end? You know, like, how did I get here? You know, I'll be honest with you. My stuff is still in boxes. I'm, you know, living like a gypsy. I had a girlfriend that I am, you know, connected to just spiritually, and, you know, I had no clue what she was going through, and, you know, she's having a really rough time. Her father, you know, is getting ready to pass over, and, you know, I was hospice for my daddy, and I helped him cross over, and, you know, that was the first time I've ever done that, and that was unfortunate, you know, but at the same time, all selfishness aside, he did not need to live in that pain anymore. And he didn't need to suffer because he was, you know, to me, that nobody should ever have to suffer. And if an animal doesn't have to suffer and we have that rights to take an animal's life, then I have that right to take my dad's life, you know. And I did it in the most kindest and loving manner. And I would whisper in his ear and tell him, Daddy, I'm so sorry. I love you. Just go to sleep, you know. And I never really truly grieved from that, but when I went and saw my psychic lady friend again, you know, for the first time, and it was, you know, I was told, hey, Peace, you know, have you ever gone in for a chakra balancing? And I'm like, I said, a what? You know, like, spell it. And so, yeah, and so I went to her, I called as soon as I got home, and I made my appointment, and I went to her the next day, and she had nothing to go off of, and she got to my heart chakra, and she says, Peace, you don't cry. And I was like, no. And she was like, every time you start to cry, you just pull back because you feel that you need to just be strong. And she goes, I'm seeing a dad or a grandpa, or I think it's a dad, but I want to say it's a grandpa. And I'm looking at her like, what? And she says, well, he just wants to let you know that what you did was the right thing. And it wasn't the words, which is so touche, like cliche, excuse me. He forgives you. Had she said the words, you're forgiven, I would have gotten up and walked out and been like, excuse my French, bullshit.
Yeah.
But she didn't say that. And she told me things that nobody knew about me. And it is the law of attraction. And because my third eye was opening up, I was able to see things for what they were, although even though I didn't believe in them, I walked in with an open mind and and an open heart, and I was willing, like I said, I'd gone in for all these stomach problems. I will be honest with you, since I went and saw her, I no longer have the stomach issues. I have not had to refill my prescription of medications since 2012.
Yay.
2012.
Yeah.
And, when I started looking up the spiritual meaning of what stomach issues were, the spiritual meaning is, what can't you stomach about yourself?
Yeah.
Why are you having a tough time stomaching your life? So the pain that I was feeling was brought on by none other than myself. Now, with all the tests, and yes, I've had many surgeries, it's when I realized and I was able to just cleanse myself of all those things. My stomach no longer hurts. I feel wonderful about hanging out with the uncertainty of it all. And instead of the 8 of Swords, where I can just, take my hands right out of those cuffs and take the blindfold off and walk through those 8 swords because they're not blocking me in. It was a prison of my own making. And I was able to raise my vibration. And after having this, exorcism and the scratches down my back, and, still to this day, every morning, I still kind of wake up and I'm like, yeah, I really did, and all it takes is one look in the mirror at my back every day. And I mean, I somehow was able to gain the knowledge of how to use the earth to heal. And I am a healer. I make medicines and I'm using the earth. I'm using aromatherapy. And it was really funny, everybody's like, she's on drugs and she's on this and, and let's bat her down. And it's like, really, because I got hundreds of dollars worth of essential oils right here that kind of just defeats the purpose, don't you think? And, but at the same time, the human aspect of it all wants to look and focus on the exact negative. This person's asking for help. This person knows that she's at rock bottom right now. And because she's asking for help, there's got to be a problem. She had to have done this on her own. Otherwise, she wouldn't be where she's at. Don't judge that book by its cover, sweetheart, because there's a lot more going on underneath. And we are only able to see 1% of what's in front of our faces. So when you feel a little tickle on your nose, or you feel goosebumps down your spine, or a bolt of electricity going through your body, you better realize you're not the only presence there. And if you're feeling scratches down your back or bites from bugs that do not exist, you better realize that those are your demons, and they're there for a reason. You invited them in. You invited them in, and and I'll be honest, I did, because I didn't believe in myself, and I needed to raise my vibrations, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm having this healer knowledge and being able to heal my significant other and his boys and be there for a girlfriend of mine whose father's passing away because of the divine knowledge that I have from a past life connection. What we all need to understand is we chose this life before we walked into it. Her and I had a soul contract that we would meet up and have this conversation for the rest of you. And the law of attraction is what has brought each and every single one of you guys all here in order for you to learn and evolve and grow. And, we can't cover every single thing that has happened and the synchronicities between her and I, and almost at the exact same time, and from across the world, that our stories are so the same, and we're going to meet so many of you that your stories have so many serendipitous moments and synchronicities. And if you look at where the astrological alignment, which is a spirituality thing, and you look at your own natal chart and you do your name essence and you do your birth date and those kinds of things, you're going to realize that it is a roadmap to your destiny.
It is about doing the research.
Yeah.
The definite, find out where you're going.
Reoccurring numbers, reoccurring themes, reoccurring quotes. If you're hearing, a bum talk on the street about something that sparks your interest, and then you go into a grocery store a week later and you hear somebody else bring it up again, those aren't humans that are giving you those messages. Take the human out of the message and actually just listen to the message. Stop worrying about the messenger. The messenger is your spirit guides, and they're giving you messages. And, I wish that, I'm 36 years old, that I would have known all this a long time ago, because all of this process, I wouldn't have been able to get through a lot quicker, but everything is in divine timing. Everything, we as humans, we're, so impatient. Like, you turn on your phone and you hit an app and you expect it to load right now. Well, that's not how life works, okay? We all have to have patience. And when you raise your vibration, you're no longer in that lower vibrational, what ends up happening is, a lot of people look at, like, when you go to the beach, for instance, and you look around and you're like, wow, wonder what brought all these people here. Do you want to know what the spiritual aspect of that is? They're all vibrating at the same level as you.
Uh-huh.
It's no coincidence that these people are there. And if you see them walking away and heading to their car, they're not vibrating at the same level that you are. That's why they're exiting. The mall, same thing. In our lives, our friends, our family members even. Doesn't matter who you are. We all have like I said in my blog, we've all had a friend that just randomly disappears, or a family member, and with no reason or warning, they just turn on you at the drop of a dime and they're gone. Uh-huh. Whether it be at a positive, exit or a negative exit, they're gone. And we don't realize, that it's because we're not vibrating at the same level anymore. And eventually our vibrations, when we think of somebody and all of a sudden they call, haven't heard from him in years, that's because you're vibrating at the same level, and it was the law of attraction. You put it out in the universe, whether you thought about it, whether you said it out loud, you put it out in the universe, and that person happened to be vibrating at the same level, and because of that, that's why they called you. The reason why the paranormal experience happened is because I was investigating it. I was investigating all these things. So what I was doing was feeding into it, playing into that Pandora's box. And, so I told her, my psychic lady friend, I says, when I called her a couple weeks ago to thank her, thank you for being, there's only a couple more people, I'm not going to give any names, but that I wanted to say thank you to, for seeing me for who I was and sticking it out with me till the end. And we're not at the end. We're just at the beginning, and I'm excited from where I go here and being able to get this out and help other people, which again, I'm a Virgo, service to the world, and with an Aries rising and a Cancer moon. So my emotions are ruled by the moon. And you know what? I am so happy that I got to go through what I went through. My boyfriend's son, he says, Peace, I don't mean to be rude or anything, but why is it all the bad things happen to you? And I happened to look over at him and I said, I pulled this one out of a hat, but I didn't because it felt right. I says, you know why, sweetheart? Because if anybody else were to go through what I went through by carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders, they'd collapse. They wouldn't make it. And I'm strong enough, and I'm a fighter. And I would rather take on the pain for everyone else than for anybody to have to feel this pain. And I don't care. I don't have any enemies except for the self-made ones, and it's their side on my side. I don't, and it's sad to be that way. And I know eventually what I'm saying here and what I've said in the past, it will always be a trigger of a memory. I got into your subconscious, and you're always going to be learning from what I've said in the past. And little things will be triggered by that. So whether or not I'm an enemy to these people or not, including, right now my own daughters, they're really upset with me. They feel failed. Like I felt failed, the abandonment. And that's where these cycles and patterns are,
That's where the learning comes in.
Exactly. And they are my soul group. And I just know that I taught them well enough, and I have to have enough confidence in my parenting skills to understand that these girls, they're going through their awakening as well.
Yeah.
It's more unfortunate when it happens to children, because we as human beings, we want to protect our babies, even from ourselves. And they don't understand that, me letting go of the reins and not showing up to court anymore was an out for them. You don't need a war fought for your guys' attention and your love. You don't need to make an enemy of your mother or your father. And if that's the way it's supposed to be, then that's something I signed up for. And it's getting through to these girls is my test. My life lesson is getting through to people without having to show evidence of what I say anymore, because my word is golden.
It is. What you believe, you believe. Just
Exactly.
as what I believe, what everyone else believes is what they believe. And you don't have to have the evidence to prove it.
No.
You don't have to have that. You're the light, you're strong. And it's people like you that are the way showers, that are going to lead others forward with your light and shine light on others.
Yeah, and the sadder part is you're always going to have these naysayers, and it's sad on their part, and it's because it's within them. It's within them. It has nothing to do with you. Just know that you're beautiful. Just know that you are love. Just know that you have the power within you. You just need to own your own power. And, stop trying to hold on to everything and control everything. When you let go of the control, as this human being, we try to control every situation. Somebody dumps us and we try and make ourselves feel better by, I should have dyed my hair a different color, or I should have lost some weight, or no, dude, the guy's just not into you. He was here to teach you a lesson and move on to his way. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with our family members. We have many, many soulmates in our lives. And it's funny, I listen to those, commercials here in the States, the Christian Mingles commercials, and I'm like, they're like, have you ever, asked for a soulmate? And it's like, no, those come with lessons.
Oh, yeah.
And a soulmate...
Not as many lessons as twin flames.
Yeah, and a soulmate can be anyone. It can be you and me. It can be, my friends and I. It can be an aunt, an uncle, a sister. It does not mean a romantic relationship. So stop praying for a soulmate. Pray for a life partner. A life partner is a best friend to walk through life with. Stop praying for the soulmate unless you want the life lesson to go along with it. And a lot of the times, soulmates come together. They teach each other a lesson. And you're going to feel the world just boom around you. Like things get shook up when a soulmate comes into your life. And it's because it is a karmic lesson. My significant other and I, we're working on things and stuff. And... we know that both of us, he's understanding more of where I've come from and what I'm going through. And I read him the story of the Fool for the tarot cards the other day, and he has such a better understanding. Every one of us, it doesn't matter what culture you are. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what language you speak. Every one of us has been on the Fool's journey. Every one of us. I don't care. You fill in the blanks and your own information on the dotted line. It doesn't matter. Read the Fool's Journey. And when you've read the Fool's Journey, there's not one person that can say that they haven't met up with their mom and dad. It's all in who we choose. Even when we're adopted, these are still our parents. We did choose them even though we were adopted, and how this all comes around, the synchronicity and the serendipitous moments, and now looking back with the knowledge, the divine knowledge, the esoteric knowledge that I have, and being able to see things not anybody else can see, and hearing, messages that not everybody else can hear, and being able to have this divine knowledge of, this hospice care and caregiving in general, no matter what my service is to the world.
What a gift it is.
It is a gift. And knowing how to make all these medicines and stuff using these oils of the earth, and knowing how to combine them together with the ratios. And I didn't take science, I slept in science. My science teacher actually has a picture of me passed out on a beach when we're supposed to be doing this water molecule test out of the river, like that's the kind of student I was. Yeah. But now, just without researching these medicines, I'm being able to make up things in my head, and they're working. And it is...
Well, that knowledge is coming from your higher selves. It's coming from your guides and angels.
Yes. Oh, and...
Where it all comes from.
Here you go, too. A little bit of information that when I went through my exorcism and this awakening and the possession and all that stuff, a few months later, I find out... This was just actually a couple of months ago. And it was a couple of months after my exorcism, baptism, whatever you want to call it, that our neighbors who are attached actually through this wall, we have a bathroom here and then it goes into the other wall. 2 people died in there, one at a time. One of them being a doctor. Uh-huh. And me having all this knowledge of, how to heal people, it really made me think, okay, so I was able to download his knowledge when I was going through the possession. Yeah. Because it was when I was coming out of the possession, I was able to use the oils. I was suicidal. And, I woke up the next morning and I'm like, oh God, like, why am I here? I wasn't supposed to wake up. I didn't do anything. I just felt my vibration level just low. And I probably could have willed myself to sleep that night and just never woken up. And when I woke up the next morning, I was so disappointed. Like, I didn't take any pills and I didn't do any of that stuff. So no, it was just...
I think it's important to say that whoever's going through the awakening at the moment, you do get to the other side of it. If you do, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is hope.
What I learned about suicide during this this whole process about suicide is when when a person commits suicide, everybody always says, oh, if you commit suicide, you'll go to hell. Let me tell you something. There is no hell.
Back down here again.
There's no hell. What you ended up doing was pressing the easy button. You pressed the easy button, you went back into the next dimension, and here's the deal. You know how you hear, a child, you go in and you tell your son or your daughter, you're like, all right, turn off the video game. And they're like, oh, but Mom, wait, we got to get to this, check-in spot or we got to start all over. Guess what?
They start all over again.
You got to start all over. So you can go ahead and, don't commit suicide. Don't do it. No. I've had many people around me commit suicide, and it is... at first I figured, it was a cop out and I was so angry and bitter. But now that I've done all this, this massive awakening, I realized all you're doing is pressing the reset button. You got to come back in to this.
How much pain you're going through.
Exactly. And, too many people stop before the victory. People get into a relationship and they start fighting and arguing. And they stop before the victory. It's like, okay.
Working through things.
Yeah, it's called reality, dude. It's reality. And that's the way things go. And if you're, if you notice that things are finally starting to slow down, things were at a grumble, things were at a roar, shit hit the fan, okay? What ends up happening is you end up growing from it. You're right there at the victory. It's gonna stop. You're just too impatient as a human being that even when you've gone through all of it, you look back again, instead of taking the knowledge and growing from it, what we end up doing is we only focus on the negative, bad things that happened, and we don't see that we're right out the other end, and now more beautiful, you know, these seeds have been planted and they're starting to sprout. That was back when we were in the happy times, but now, you know, yeah, things had to just tear apart so that two things could come together, two energies could come together.
Those negative things are actually the best things that can happen to you in life.
Exactly. They are the best things that can happen.
You awake.
And without that pain, without that sorrow, without that hurt, you're not going to come out the other end. You got to heal those things. Those are deep-seated issues, things that we don't want to focus on, but they're there. And we can, I'll admit it.
Things that are pushed down and blocked that you never want to look at, that you want to lock away in a cupboard.
Well, and we get drunk. We alter our minds. You know, whether it be a sexual addiction or a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction or, you know, a gambling addiction, you know, the devil in its highest form, you know, and no matter what, that while we're, you know, burying our head in our addictions, we don't realize that when we're done with this addiction, that problem, that karmic lesson that we were supposed to be getting through, we only postponed it from happening. Because we didn't get drunk and, you know, go numb through it. It's waiting for us at the other end. So all you're doing is prolonging the inevitable. So by altering your mind, by, you know, trying to numb this pain that we've all gone through, you're not helping yourself. You're hindering yourself. And stop blaming everyone else for what you're going through. You're going through exactly what you signed up to do. And here's the deal. You can either go the angel side or you can go the devil side. But guess what? Either side, you're going to get to your destination. Which one's going to be easier? The spiritual side or
Absolutely.
the drunken, you know, toxic relationship, bad job, you know, abuse that you're so accustomed to. You know, it's like a Mercury retrograde. We've got 4 going on this year. We just got through one January 5th to the 25th, and we just got out of the residual effects, which is 2 weeks before it starts, you know, feeling it. And I'm a Virgo, ruled by Mercury. When a Mercury goes into a retrograde, and we do have 3 more this year, it gives you a chance to retrograde, reanalyze, reiterate, reevaluate, redo, you know, and so we can come back after a Mercury retrograde and go, ah, crap, that wasn't working. Let me try this. Or, as the human beings that we all are, we U-turn back to our old ways of doing things that never served our purpose in the first place, that didn't get us through all the things that we were trying to get through in the first place. So we got to turn around, and between this Mercury retrograde and the next Mercury retrograde, we're reliving the same cycle, same pattern, same everything, because we didn't learn our lesson. So then the next Mercury retrograde, that's when truths get revealed. That's when liars and cheaters and thieves come out and they get caught. That's when, you know, your plane is probably going to be delayed, or your text messages aren't going to go through, or your computer's going to go down, or, you know, anything that can go wrong will. Back up, back up, back up. And if you write something down and you say you said something to somebody, CC it to someone else. You know what I mean? And a thing that I did was when Mercury came out of retrograde, it trined Pluto. And I ended up blasting a bunch of lies for my significant other out on YouTube. And it wasn't...
I did in the last Mercury retrograde as well. I didn't blast it out on YouTube, but I did add some lies.
I did. I blasted out the lies because I was being hurt by them. I was being used as a scapegoat, and it wasn't his intentions. These were lessons that I had to learn just as he did. But, you know, he didn't, you know, I wasn't advertising our relationship to anybody. I wasn't talking to people about our relationship. And my life was very private. I was hidden away where I lived, you know, and all of a sudden he's going and he's talking to all these people and, you know, not even telling the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, but only telling bits and pieces that he wanted them to hear. And of course, you know, who I thought they were my friends. Yeah, I'm thinking they're my friends, you know, they'll hear my side because I'm just trying to get this person help. And when helping him, everybody turned their back on me. So I ended up blasting him on YouTube to get the story out. So